Welcome all to the 11th meeting of this Bills Committee. We'll continue to scrutinize this Clause 6 and 8 together. Could we invite the administration team into the room, please?
OK， 我哋再次歡迎各位官員。
Once again, we welcome the administration team into the 11th meeting of this Bills Committee. We're now jointly scrutinizing Clause 6 and 8. And last time, the members have pressed a button. Only Ted Hui is present. Ted Hui, 7th round, 1 minute. Just like to follow up on the Clause 6 and 8 of the way the clause is drafted. My question for this as score in Clause 8 should correspond to 6-1 of this score. For the Clause 8, for the words, it should correspond to lyrics, and the score correspond to the score. Well, I think there would be ambiguity if the music doesn't correspond to the score in Clause 6. This is not a policy question. It's just a technical matter, just to make you clarify. Is it possible for Clause 6.1 to include the word as score, or in any part of the bill, you can add the piece of music, because it can't be used like that. Because if you refer to a piece of music, however, there's no definition of such in the bill, or whether you're not sure if you're referring to the national anthem in 6.1. Permanent Secretary. Well, the way it's drafted is fine. When somebody misusing the national anthem and some piece of music would closely resemble the lead to reason believe that it's part of the national anthem. So of course it will be different. In order to express the difference, if like Mr. Ted Hui, the national anthem music will confuse with national anthem. So the piece of music referring to any song that is not the national anthem, but lead to reason believe that the piece of music is national anthem or part of it. Can you please press the button again? Still Ted Hui, 1 minute. For it, well, the English is piece of music in Clause 8A is very broad meaning. Well, the piece of music would include the score, the interval, the lyrics. So you say the describe piece of music, but you said this break down to words, lyrics, and score. You said doesn't correspond to Clause 6 and 7. That which part of the piece of music is misused. So, was this a criminal provision? Well, in the court, it may be difficult to understand. Well, if the piece of music is deemed to be offensive, I'm sure there will be a ambiguity interpretation. So why don't we set it straight? Well, the way you can draft it better to eliminate any ambiguity. So why not? If you decided not to add a piece of music in Clause 6, but at least you can just say that the piece of music corresponds to the core theme. Well, a brief response over time. Well, clearly need enough piece of music. The national anthem is a subset of the piece of music. So we'll Clause 8 for a piece of music, whether or not including words to be included. If it's so closely resembled that that's national anthem, the reason belief that the piece of music is national anthem. So a piece of music. So a national anthem is a subset of the piece of music. So that way it's written is very clear. Can we ask Mr. Pang to confirm any problem in drafting. Mr. Peng, I think the way it's drafted quite clear because with Clause 6 we have the national anthem wording, and with Clause 8, for the purpose of this part, a piece of music is regarded as a national anthem. So it align with Clause 6. So next, Dr. Helena Wong, third round, 2 minutes. For Clause 6, 1C and 6.5, is there any contradiction? For 6.1c, that the national anthem must not be used on an occasion as a place for a purpose of prescribed under subsection 5, and for subsection 5, the CE and Council may by notice publish in the Gazette prescribe an occasion, place, or purpose for the purpose of subsection 1 bracket C. So I guess it's only referring to Schedule 3, the occasion where the national anthem be played and sung. So can the legal counsel or the government can tell us? So for the occasion, is it the one described as 6.1c? Then in any way you can't play or sing the national anthem in any occasion. I think the question is clear enough. Roy Tang, for 6 subsection 5, 6.1 and 6.5 together, if the CN Council think is so warranted, they can ban certain occasions from using the national anthem. So one described the occasion that must not be used the national anthem. Now we don't have any prescribed occasion. Can the legal advisor eliminate us? Because 6.1c is not occasion that which the national anthem must not be used. In 6.5, and claim there are occasions with which it be prescribed as national anthem. For Schedule 3 lists out the occasions that can and cannot be played and sung. So would that be overruled by 6.1c so that it cannot be sung? Are you asking the legal advisor to answer the question? Legal advisor. Well, for Schedule 3, well, what does schedule refer to? So 1, and what the occasions on which the national anthem must be played and sung. And for 6.1c and 6.5, the notice in Gazettal is not in the Schedule 3. So now it do so by the way of publishing in the Gazette. So then it will put in the subsidiary legislation, but not in the main legislation. So 6 subsection 5. How about the next round? Dr. Fernando Chang, 1 minute. Referring to 6.2, the national anthem must not be used as background music in a public place. So by the definition of public place, it meant a place to which a public or a section of the public may or are permitted to have access from time to time, whether by payment or otherwise. So what do you mean by a section of the public? And by saying permit to have access from time to time, if the public place will allow a section of the public to access from time to time, that we count as a public place. Can you elaborate what do you mean by that, a section of the public? Mr. Pang? Well, for the public, for a larger body of people, a section of the public referring a special class or category of people, or a dictionary meaning will be a distinct subdivision or group forming a separate part of law or logical part of people. Well, that what we mean by the section of the public. So the meaning of from time to time, there's not just once off, so you can enter on multiple times. That's why what we mean by from time to time, instead of just entered it once. So That's what we mean by a section of the public to have access from time to time. I think this definition is reference for the definition of public place in different legislation, which will extract the key part into this bill. Dr. Helena Wong. I want the government to elaborate for 6.5. The Chief Executive in Council may by notice published in the Gazette prescribe an occasion, place, or purpose for the purpose of subsection 1 bracket C. For subsection 1C, for the occasion, place, or purpose is not the one list that described in Schedule 3. It's not this. So that means you describe occasions in which the national anthem may not be played. So besides trademark or commercial advertisement, besides private funeral event, if the CE and Council see there are other occasions which the anthem must be played, then they will do so in the future through Gazetto. So it's totally unrelated to Schedule 3. Is Dr. Wong's correct? Correct. Yes. Next, Ray Chan. 1 minute. 2 questions. For trademark, at time asked question, and in trademark, sound is also a valid trademark.
Could the PS give us some examples? For example, when we come to Section 13, we will be discussing the registration of trademarks. I hope you can give us an answer before we come to number 13. B, private funeral event. I asked a question last time, which was when you have the wake and the funeral procession, or even the anniversary commemorative events. What about the ceremony where the ashes are scattered at sea and also in the memorial gardens? Would that be regarded as a funeral event? That's after the main funeral is finished. This only takes place after the funeral has occurred. So would you also regard that as a funeral event? Chairman, last time I cited the definition of trademark, which is in the trademark ordinance. Mr. Chen asked me for an example. The one that I can immediately think of is the ringtone of which belongs to the company Nokia. So funeral, there may be a time gap between the time the person is passed away and the event. Regarding the ash scattering ceremony, I think it should count as part of the funeral event. Mr. Edigi, you're 7 wrong. I'd like to follow up on the point raised last Saturday, that is Section 8 of the National Anthem law. I've actually checked up on the national law regarding the trademark law and the commercial advertisement law. There are penalties, but I like the administration to confirm whether or not there are penalties here. We're still trying to collect the relevant information, and we'll give an answer as soon as possible. My guess is that one of the possible answers from the Bureau is that under the National Flag and Anthem Ordinance, there is also the provision for a level 2 fine. The government has responded and told us that it was not able to look up the papers, the legislative papers at the time. So for funeral event, for example, I wonder whether you have lost the materials pertaining to the Provisional Legislative Council, and therefore we cannot make reference to it. Last time, when we conducted the documentary search, we were not able to find that. Mr. Uchiwai. 4 minutes. Thank you. I have a question regarding Section 6(1)(b). A private funeral event, that is, the national anthem must not be used at such an event. If you have, for example, a state funeral or a funeral for civil servants who've actually, died, for Hong Kong, would there be a separate provision to ensure that because of the drafting of Section 6, the national anthem can still be played, as a token of respect for those who have die for Hong Kong. Chairman, I think here we are referring to a private funeral event, so and during which the national anthem cannot be used. If the funeral event itself is an official, ceremony, then of course it would not be, it would not be affected. For under 1A, you say the national anthem cannot be played in a trademark or commercial advertisement. Let's say if you have a non-profit making organization using the lyrics or the contents of the national anthem, now against that background, will they be also subject to the restriction? That is, if it is not a trademark or a commercial advertisement, but there's no intention to insult, does it mean that such a person can freely use the national anthem? If I understand Mr. Wu correctly, even if it were a non-profit making organization, the scenario that you are talking about, are you saying that asking whether the national anthem is being used in a trademark or advertisement? If that's the case, of course it is not allowed. But if during the ceremony of that non-profit organization, they use the lyrics or the score of the national anthem to promote its own activities, it will still be subject to the restriction. I think what we're talking about here is, trademarks and commercial advertisements, whether it's a non-profit making organization or not. If somebody uses the national anthem and create a piece of work, that would be something else. We will need to look at the works being created. If it has used part of the content of the national anthem, then we would have to decide whether that would amount to actually, changing the lyrics of the national anthem. Let's say if they use the content of the national anthem to promote the organization itself, would that count as a commercial advertisement, even though it is a non-profit making organization? Secretary. Well, that would depend. If the non-profit making organization is promoting its own activities, of course, commercial advertisements would also be promotion by commercial entities. That's my understanding. So in other words, for a non-profit making organization, for its promotional activities using the national anthem, it would not count as a misuse of national anthem. But if the content is such that it is insulting the national anthem, then it's a separate issue. Right. I'd like to say this to members. At around 11:30, I'm going to draw a line. I think our discussion has already... So at 11:35, I'm going to draw a line. If members still have questions yet to ask, please come down and press the button to indicate that you wish to ask a question. Speaker's not coming through. I thought that since I'm going for my third round, I should have preference over those who are asking the question in the 6th and 7th round. But according to your proposal, even if I attempt to press the button, it's very likely that it would already be past 11:35. Did you press a button this morning? Well, actually, I put up my hand earlier. The clerk had actually given me an indication. Normally, at any meeting, we would need to press the button to indicate that we wish to speak. You didn't press the button this morning, right? If you have, it would be displayed. Okay. Mr. Gary Fan, your third round, 2 minutes. Chairman, I'd like to ask a question regarding Schedule 3, Section 8, that is regarding part of the score of the national anthem. I'm talking about artistic creation, secondary creation, and commercial, creation. If part of that is construed to be under Section 8, to be so long if the lyrics or the score. So is it? So I think earlier some members asked a similar question for popular music or the football carnival sung by Hacken Lee. The secretary in the PS at the earlier meeting said that they will go back to find out, and actually in that song they don't use the part of the national anthem is stand up and stand up. So would that fall under Section 8, subsection ABC? Chairman, regarding the song Football Carnival, actually we've conducted a search for Section 8, bracket ABC. Actually, this would need to should be looked in conjunction with Section 6 and 7. Secretary, I'm asking my question relating to Section 8. What I'm saying is that the drafting of the Section 8 is drafted in such a manner that it has to consider together with Section 6 and 7. If the artistic creation contain lyrics and scores which are similar to the national anthem, then what we're saying in Section 8 is that such music, lyrics, and score, we have to judge whether or not it will reasonably cause somebody to believe that it is the national anthem or part thereof. If that's the case, that piece of work will be regarded as a national anthem. I think this is the same as your answer given previously. So does that mean that this piece of music would then be regarded as part of the music, the lyric, or the score of the national anthem? Are you talking about Football Carnival? I've already given the answer before. That look, if for that song as a whole, or the part of that song sounded like, if you consider the whole song in its totality, you wouldn't think that it is the national anthem. The song lasted for 3 minute, 40 something seconds, and 60 seconds of which actually contain words in the national anthem. Well, I think the drafting of Section 8 already provides for that. If anybody should have any query, the court will decide whether or not it causes anyone to reasonably believe that it is the national anthem. Armando Zhang. For Section 6, bracket 2, may actually conflict with Part 4. Part 4 is about the promotion of the national anthem among schools. And here you say the national anthem cannot be used as background music in a public place. I heard from the officials that the school could also be a public place. If certain events or activities are being organized in a school, the school may be teaching the students about the national anthem. The national anthem could be the background music while other activities are going on concurrently, in which case it would be a breach of Section 6, bracket 2. It's about the venue, right? Permanent Secretary. Chairman, I think if Dr. Zhang is talking about the school promoting the national anthem, I think there would be a more professional way to promote the national anthem. Gary Fan. I'd like to follow on the same point. Right now, many primary and secondary schools, in their morning assemblies, athletic meets, aquatic meets, before such events begin, they would broadcast the national anthem, and students are not required to sing or perform the national anthem. So But according to section 6, bracket 6, of course, we're talking about a public place. For these primary secondary schools, where they play the national anthem, will they fall into a technical trap? That is, in the course of playing the national anthem, they may have done something wrong and then be considered to be misusing the national anthem and hence in breach of 6, bracket 2. If there is an event organized in a school and the national anthem is being played, that would be one section of that event where the national anthem is being played, and it would not count as background music. Claudia Mo, Chairman. When I was young, I understand that the song East is Red was the national anthem of the People's Republic of China, but now I've learned that this was not official. Of course, there's nothing wrong if we play, the song East is Red. Now, if somebody makes a mistake and when playing the national anthem they play the tune East is Red instead, would that be a problem? Previously, this national anthem, the lyrics of this national anthem used to be different. At some time, they say upholding the flag, of Mao Zedong. If somebody used the old lyrics, would that be allowed? Would that be an offense? Any definition for the lyrics of the national anthem? I think the score on the lyrics are defined in the bill. Ms. Mo asked, I think if another tune is being played, it's not a problem because it will not constitute as the national anthem. Well, in that case, so one can simply feign ignorance, right?
主席啊，即係除咗
Besides schools, Part 4 also talk about promoting the national anthem, in which we mandate broadcast playing it in TV stations. I think a lot of cha chantings will turn on their TV. I wonder would it count as background music in this case. So for bracket 6.2, the way it's written, that will lead to a lot of breaches. So let's say if you're having an egg sandwich in a cha chanting while the national anthem is played, would that see as a public place? Well, there's a clear breach that there's a penalty. The way it's written is simply a mess. Of course, the cha chanting is a public place. However, when we interpret commercial and background music, well, there's actually an event taking place. Well, as a cha chanting, there's no common activity taking place. Well, what else you do in a cha chanting besides eating? Mr. Wuchiwai, 3 minutes. Well, so on the public place, during the 6:30 local news bulletin, they will have an API to play the national anthem. So cha chantings or places where the television is turned on, and then it will become a public place in which the national anthem is played as the background music. So the owner of the cha chanting of the premises, should he turn off the television so as not as be committing the offense of misusing the national anthem, or is that necessary? Or by common sense, the for example, at a shopping center, they will play some music as background music. In those situations, the national anthem should not be used. For cha chanting in other places, they kept the television on, so it's not providing a background music, so I don't see there as any problem. if we take the initiative to play the national anthem or the music, that will be breached. So, however, if just turn on the TV for enjoyment or programming, that should not be a problem. Yes. Next, Mr. Kwang Chun Yu, second round, 3 minutes. Of course, we need to discuss what's a public place. It's just care in where Dr. Cheng left off. Of course, there's a core activity of having their meals. So let's say before the 6:30 TV bulletin, there's the national anthem we play. If somebody turn on the TV and with remote control and said, "Oh, it's awful music," so maybe he is displaying his disdain to this music in a hypothetical situation. So let's say I stop the national anthem midway. Secretary, that's not dealt with under Clause 6. To some, that's special music. For some, this is the anthem. And someone have control the remote control. When I had the remote, somebody can, whoever had it can turn it up. It's hard to find it. It could either be a background music or performance, or if the public event, let's say, a lot of people go to Cha-Cha-Ting every day. So can you say anything to assure us? On the question of music, the Cha-Cha-Ting music has been answered. And now we're on Clause 6. In the Cha-Cha-Ting, you turn on the television. That's not background music. If you turn off the television, then there's no sound coming from the TV set. So that's Clause 6. So the scenario described by Mr. Kwang, it doesn't apply to Clause 6. So the Secretary said it's not a background music in a public place. While Cha-Cha is just too common. It's keep on playing the national anthem. Let's say they pre-record a news report and keep on playing in the national anthem. I think Mr. Kwang's question has been answered many times. If the TV is not kept on for a long time, but rather playing the national anthem for a long time, that will be the background music of a public place. Well, it's not if you turn on the news bulletin. Let's say the TV before the 6:30 bulletin played the national anthem. That's not background music. However, if we keep on looping the same national anthem, that will be a problem. It's not a matter of frequency, because it's turning on television and broadcasting whatever the TV is playing. That's common sense. Let's say I played once. So how many times will we see as a background music? Well, I want to get a specific frequency. My answer to no, it's not. I said it's a matter of frequency. So in a public place, how about 100 times? I think the question's been answered. Before the next member speak, I would like to, whoever would like to speak, please press the button, because I will draw the line. Okay, we now have drawn the line. Mr. Yu Kinyun, first round, 4 minutes. I want to seek further clarification. So you made the 6-2 national anthem must not be used as a background music in a public place. I'm sure there's a reason for that. That why it cannot be used as a background music. It's just some kind of accompaniment. I believe that if the channel is playing the TV news, that before the news bulletin, that the national anthem before it is not background music. However, he will keep on looping the national anthem, that so be the case. However, for 6.3, that a person committed an offense if the person, without reasonable excuse, used the national anthem lyrics or score to contravention subsection 1 and 2. So in this subsection, there are certain scenarios will come with a reasonable excuse. So under what scenario that there may be a reasonable excuse so that the trademark, commercial advertisement, or private funeral to use the national anthem or the lyrics. Because we're on a common law jurisdiction, usually under the enactment for a criminal offense, if you have able to provide, it's impossible to provide a reasonable defense provision. Well, the Hong Kong law enactment is over 1,000 offenses have been provided with the defense provision. There's actually no concrete examples be provided as example of defense. Because you want to indict on a criminal offense, you first have to commit the criminal behavior and the intent. With the two, you can't rule out anyone that in the course of the trial to raise it to the court that he's unaware of and not at the scene or in uncontrollable circumstances, which can be served as a statutory defense. Whether the court will accept will be judged by the circumstance of this case. Mr. Yip. Mr. Leung Yu Chung, 3 minutes. Yes, Leung Yu Chung, Lam Yu Tank, Alvin Young, Kwang Chun Yu, Wu Chi Wai, Dr. Chen Chung Tai, Al Lok Hin, Gary Fan, Jeremy Tam, Dr. Van Chang. No one else? So you can press the button after the machine is switched off, or? Okay, I'll take your word for it. I'll include you then. Mr. Leung Yu Chung. I want to clarify on the definition of advertising. Well, you know there's a commercial break in the middle of news bulletin. Even though we know that news bulletin is a program, the more people watch, the higher the ratings, the more advertising clients. If no one watch the news, there's not much advertisers. Before the news, the national anthem was played. Is that continue an enticement? So as to attract advertisement, this is the link. So after this law is passed, before the news bulletin, then we couldn't play the news bulletin, the national anthem then, rather. So before the news bulletin or other time periods, the playing of national anthem is seen as a government API. So that's as imposed on the licensing requirement, which they have to allocate time for government to play the API, including the preventing dengue fever or other public hygiene, or washing your hands and so on. So that's not seen as a commercial advertising. So that's a government API. Well, you said commercial advertisement, so it must be advertisement. That must be commercial in nature, and that's it must not be used as a trademark or commercial advertisement. Well, it said commercial advertisement in the bill. Next, Mr. Lam Check Ting, 3 minutes. I wonder if any colleagues have raised similar questions. And now we said that you can use national anthem or trademark or commercial advertisement or a background music as a public place. My colleague asked if someone download the national anthem as their telephone ringtone. So you can't use it as a ringtone. So national anthem as a ringtone. Prime Secretary, Well, we've been discussed that at the policy discussion. From our understanding, it would not be in breach of this bill. It would not make a commercial advertisement. In the mainland, there's no ban of using it as a ringtone. However, you consider that Anthem are a dignified thing. If there are better choices, Anthem should be avoided. How about, well, providing the ringtone, the app developer must be commercially operated within breach of the law. Let's say in the app there are other commercial advertisement in the app. Instead of just buying the ringtone, is that banned under the proposed legislation? For 6.1, it state that the national anthem lyrics and score cannot be used to trademark or commercial development. For the ringtone, if it's national anthem, it could be a product but not a trademark because you can't register that. It would not be a commercial advertisement either. If someone used the national anthem to attract downloads, and in the process they were able to generate advertising revenue, or use the national anthem to charge $5 per download, so it would still be legal. So a simple reading of the 6.1, I don't see any possibility of breach. Of someone can we sell the national anthem? Was that?
I think that one can sell the national anthem. It's allowed. Permanent Secretary, Chairman, the bill does not disallow that. But I think if the national anthem could be downloaded from the government website, one could certainly use the government website. Well, regarding the telephone ringtone, which is the national anthem, although you don't recommend people downloading it, but there is no law against that. Now, every time the ringtone, is activated at a funeral event or in a public place and it keeps on ringing, would people then ask whether this would breach Section 6? I don't think that would be a breach, but I think one would need to actually respect the dignity of the national anthem and act reasonably. Alvin Young. I think this is local legislation, starting from Schedule 3. So let me first of all clarify one point of principle. That is, if a certain act is not illegal in the mainland, then you shouldn't enact legislation to that effect in Hong Kong. Is that the principle that exists? We are now actually applying the national law through local legislation in Hong Kong. So how the local legislation is drafted, what will be defined as offences, and what will be the standard for the penalties and the process and the prosecution and so on will be in accordance with the Hong Kong laws. Now, for the same act, if it takes place in Hong Kong under the national anthem ordinance, it would be if it were breached, then the same act would also be regarded as an offence in the mainland. Could the Secretary please confirm whether this is correct? Chairman, I think the principle of our local legislation is that when we enact local legislation to implement the national anthem law, we have to take into consideration local circumstances. I'll now like to follow up on the point raised by Jeremy Tam at the last meeting regarding the score. In the national anthem law, they do not specifically, separate, the lyrics and the score, and the music as it is in the case of the legislation. Mr. Tam quoted the example of the, score being printed on the coffin, and we were told that this is, in breach of the ordinance. But for the same act, if performed in the mainland, and according to the national anthem law, there is no such detailed provision. So one should assume that such an act is not illegal. So I'd like to ask whether or not such an act will be illegal in the mainland. You're saying that an act, performed in the mainland, whether or not according to the mainland law it is illegal. Our understanding is that it is illegal. Mr. Kong Chun Yu, 2 minutes. Chairman, this morning at the Home Affairs panel, we discussed the noise control issue in venues managed by the LCST. We understand now that when people sing in a park and people give tips to the performers, is not an offense. You may have many women, men and women performing in the parks, and people would tip them for the performance. Now, for these middle-aged ladies performing there, I think would such singing be construed as a commercial behavior or act? Even if it were a business behavior, but I think 6-1 actually is about commercial advertisement. For these middle-aged, women, many of them obviously are very patriotic and they would like very much to sing. And sometimes they even have ensembles, accompanying the performance in parks. And they may keep singing, the March of the Volunteers. It's actually their signature song. Now you have cases like that, that they keep singing the same song. If you have, a troupe, which sings very well, and every time they perform, they sing the national anthem, would that constitute, promotion of that, troupe or ensemble? We're looking at Section 6 here. According to the scenario described by Mr. Kwong, of course, if somebody gives a singing performance and he charges for the performance, it's like in a concert. In a concert, somebody performs the national anthem. I don't see how this bill means that we are banning that. Well, if you have middle-aged women, performing a remix version of the national anthem, some people will say that it's performance, some people say it's noise nuisance. I think that would only come under Section 7. Let's come to that when we go to Section 7. Wichiwai is not here. Dr. Cheng Chung Tai, 1 minute. I'd like to follow up on Mr. Lam Chuk Ting's question. That is 6(1)(a), trademarks and commercial advertisements. I think I think members seem to have some confusion over the understanding of these two terms. Let's say somebody sings the national anthem on YouTube, and every time it's being played on YouTube, certain advertisements will be embedded in the performance. So in the internet, in platforms like the YouTube, there are boundaries. So when, let's say, the national anthem is being played or performed, now the video clip is not about the national anthem, but when if somebody were to sing the national anthem, and then he will earn an income, depending on the hit rate, would that therefore count as a commercial advertisement? I think that has been answered already. You're saying that we still cannot differentiate between, commercial advertisement and commercial activities. Now, if the video is about the singing of the national anthem, now, first of all, that is not a commercial advertisement. And secondly, if during the playing of the performance, there might be a commercial element there when you count the number of times or hit rate, but it's not a commercial advertisement. I'll lock in. 1 minute. Mr. Uchiwai, 2 minutes. Thank you. I was attending another meeting next door. I'd like to clarify 2 points. When we watch the television program and the national anthem is being played, that would not count. So for the customers in a restaurant, for example, are there requirements in terms of the etiquette that they should observe when the national anthem is being played there? And of course, when I watch the TV program when the national anthem is being played, then it's all right. But people nowadays watch the YouTube with their cell phone, and the national anthem may be played on YouTube. Well, when that happens, does the person who broadcasts the national anthem would there be any impact on the person who plays the national anthem on YouTube or the one who listens to it. Or in a restaurant, Chinese restaurant, the TV is broadcasting the national anthem. The customers in that restaurant basically are just watching the television program. They're not attending the occasion where the national anthem is played. So we're not talking about so that such person will not have to stand, in respect and so on. In a Hong Kong style restaurant, the national anthem may be played on television, but the customers are not attending a function where the national anthem is being played. So there's no requirement in terms of the etiquette to be observed. What about the national anthem is being played on YouTube? So there's no issue regarding etiquette. But we're not talking about the national anthem being played where before the news program is run. But this is related to the national anthem being played in a public place. Now, if somebody were to broadcast the national anthem on his or her cell phone, and other people in the same place are not participating in any function where the national anthem is being played. Gary Fan. I have two questions regarding interpretation, which I'd like to clarify. First of all, commercial, behavior and commercial advertisement. A commercial advertisement may actually help promote commercial transactions resulting in revenues being earned and so on. So although you say commercial activity, an advertisement could be, advertisement for public interest and so on. And then background music. In many shopping centers, they may buy patented music, be they popular music or classical music. They will buy a whole package of such music and they play each tune one by one, and it's being looped continuously. Now, in a public place when the national anthem is being played, I think it could be construed as background music, and this is the venue I'm talking about. If it's an organization buy 10 or 20 pieces of music and the national anthem is being played, in the process, it can still be regarded as background music, and that would still be a point, that could be subject to dispute. Well, there's no definition for commercial advertisement, so a reasonable interpretation of commercial advertisement. According to the dictionary, advertisement means using text and symbols to actually to promote or to introduce certain product or service. So if it's about commerce, then it would be a commercial advertisement. Mr. Ray Chen, 1 minute. I don't think he's answered the question regarding background music. I hope you allow me time to clearly clarify my question. What about background? In a public place, if music is being played continuously, that will be background music, and the national anthem cannot be used in such background music. Ray Chan. Regarding background music, we had a detailed discussion on this point last Saturday, and that have actually clarified that for me. So we're talking about background music for the entire public place. I hope that is clear. Earlier we asked questions regarding movies, stage performance, drama performance, dance performance, during the performance of which the national anthem is being played. So it's part of that piece of artistic work, and as such, it's not counted as background music. Before we went to the clause by clause, I said that a TV host has breached the national anthem law, and he was, put into custody, or he was put in prison. And the First Secretary said that if during the program the national anthem is played, then the national anthem could be construed as background music. We were told last Saturday that public place does not include the internet. I'd like to ask the PS whether he has a different understanding. I don't think I've cited Section 6. I was citing Section 7 at the time. Fernando Zhang. I said just now that in an educational context in a school or other venues, it's possible that the national anthem could be used as background music when we are talking about part 4, promotion of the national anthem. The schools have their responsibility to do that. The PS told us that schools would adopt a more professional approach to educate the students about the national anthem. I don't know whether Mr. Tang is an educational expert, but shouldn't we, in the bill, allow some leeway for the professional educators so that they can, educate the students, on the national anthem, so that you can provide an exemption for schools. I don't think there's any contradiction here. In part 4, we're talking about promotion of the national anthem, namely teaching the national anthem in secondary and primary schools. The teachers will relied on the professional expertise to do that. If you teach the national anthem or if they perform the national anthem during certain activities, the national anthem played on such occasions will not be background music. Claudia Mo. Well, we've now come to the stage that we're now teaching people how to, exploit the loophole. For example, you say the national anthem cannot be used as a commercial advertisement. We understand, because a commercial advertisement aims to promote one's products or service.
But for a commercial act is allowed, whether you get charging anyone or not. Let's say Ted Hui asked you many times. Let's say the score or the music is printed on a mug, and as I just put the wording to march out the volunteers. Well, it's not as a trademark, nor is used as advertisement. It's actually used on the product itself. So why is it not allowed? Who will take the question? Our previous position, looking just at clause 6, that the usage you described is not in breach of clause 6, but maybe clause 7. What do you mean by a possibility? Either you're breaching or not. She asked you, what do you mean by you can't use the anthem to promote the product? Or let's say it's a design on the mug is a commercial act. It's not a trademark or commercial advertisement. That all other kinds of commercial activities are allowed, is what you said. And Chairman, Ms. Mouse is correct, just by reading the clause 6. Next, Mr. Lochin, 1 minute. Let's say I'm dead. My death wish is to play the national anthem, so that we breaking the law. Let's say I play it to the chanting man in the funeral parlor. Then would the chanting man be liable? Because the word of breaking the law, because he's already dead. And for the funeral, the staff under the instruction to play the national anthem, that would be breaking the law. Let's say my relative asking the chanting monk to play the music, that the relative will be liable or both equally guilty. Well, for the two individuals, what is their role in the level of participation? So is it really misleading the nations to play that? Okay, I'm just continuing with the question of the score. So maybe I didn't make myself clear enough. I hope that the administration can respond through writing. So why in the mainland national anthem law doesn't restrict the score? You do have to play according to the score, and any alteration to the score will be illegal. So that's just what the mainland law is all about. Now, when they apply to Hong Kong, if you print the score on the product or play in a private funeral is still illegal. I see this as flawed. Well, we're under a time constraint. I hope the administration can explain. So what isn't on the mainland anthem law actually appear in the Hong Kong legislation? I hope you can lay out your justification instead of as explained it here. I think last time I asked for a written explanation. I think and last time you asked for a written comparison of the mainland and the Hong Kong legislation. Okay, we now complete the scrutiny of clause 6 and 8. Can we have the chat here? One more question. For clause 6, I'm not done. Sorry, we've drawn a line. I just in 1 minute. Almost. Not even for 1 minute. So why didn't you press the button? I was at a complaints division and just came up. Well, I'm just attending ideological business. Since you were in the public complaints division, okay, I trust you. I'll let you have your minute. I wonder if I missed out the correspondence or understand me correctly. And for 6.3, the legal advisor have asked the administration if the owner cannot prevent anyone from playing the background music or the operator instruct the employee to do so, and what the liability of the employer. I think the administration didn't explain. So let's say there's no occasion I can't control anyone from playing national anthem, or I instruct my employer who said. I think your question is clear enough. I will answer a simple question. Let's say someone have been charged in accordance to 6.1. Then the prosecution must be satisfied that there are clear intent and without reasonable doubt. However, the actual level of participation, their knowledge of the act, there have been, say, a reasonable defense. Well, there are over 1,000 legislation come with a reasonable defense. It hinges on the court whether to accept them. So I must still fall into it. Okay, so it completes clause 6 and 8. Now can we invite Ms. Cordia Lam, PAS of Constitution Mail Affairs, to walk us through clause 7 before we open the floor for questions. Ms. Lam? For clause 7, offensive insulting behavior, to correspond to section 15 of the mainland anthem law, is to ban the public and intentional insult to the national anthem. For 7.1, is banning anyone to the intend to insult the national anthem publicly intentionally by altering the lyrics or score of the national anthem or play sings the national anthem in distorted and disrespectful way. For 7, subsection 2, banning a person committed offense and principally intentionally insult the national anthem in any way. For 3 and 4, would target the act of publishing with intent to insult. With 3.8, altered lyrics or altered score of the national anthem, or the national anthem played and sung in distorted, disrespectful way. And with 7.4, ban anyone to with intent to insult the national anthem for publishers in the insulting in any way of the national anthem. And 7.5, anyone altered lyrics or altered score of the national anthem and insulting way everyone does not commit offense. Or 7.6, set the penalty levels. There will be a liable conviction to a fine at level 5 and imprisonment for 3 years. For 7.7, on the prosecution period, be prescribed as the end of period or year after the date on which the offense is discovered or it comes to the notice of the Commissioner of Police, or B, the end of period of 2 years after the date in which the offense is committed, whichever the earlier. And 7.8, we give a definition on insult and publish. For clause 8 already be scrutinized. Also remind you for clause 7 and 8 will be scrutinized together because clause 8 is also related to both 6 and 7. So it's 4, 2, 3, 1, 1, like last time. So we scrutinized 6 and 8 last time, and we allocated a lot of time. For each clause, it's like 2 hours, and now for this 2 clause, we have devoted a total of 5 hours. Ted Hui, what point of order you wish to raise? Oh, you can consider for clause 7 will be the most controversial in the public and the core criminal element. I think can allow more time for each round. Let's say 4-4. It's just proportionate. Well, you have allocated so much time for the previous clause, but you just can't just give 2 hours for clause 7. Well, this is a point of order. I don't plan to deal with it. Why not, Chairman? I hope you can give more time. What do you want me to rule on? I want to rule that for this part, we should devote more time in it. Well, I promised there would be adequate time. I have allocated more than enough time. Last time we gave 5 hours. For 6 and 8, we spent a total of 5 hours, Mr. Hui. While for 7 is more critical, I'll give more time. I think 6-8 is just as important as 7-8. Both are about criminal offenses. Legal advisor, do you have a question and a comment to make? We have a drafting opinion. What examine 7.1.2 would correspond to section 15 of the National Anthem law. There's actually one clause in the comments with intent national anthem praise public intentionally alters the lyrics and score of national anthem, or plays and sings the national anthem in distorted and disrespectful way. For distort and disrespectful way, and now that you split it into 7, 1, and 2, the relationship is not clear. See that for 7.2, we made it explicit for outside of 7.1 that anyone to insult publicly and intentionally insult the national anthem, they will show the relationship between the two, and the general public will have an easier understanding of the link of the two. I let Mr. Peng to explain. Thank you, legal advisor. The way it's written in the mainland law, clause section 15, so intentionally, like national anthem to alter the lyrics, also a national anthem. If we import it to the Hong Kong legislation, we're worried that other disrespect way will also include or take a narrow interpretation of the term in any way as interpreted. The in any way will not will refer to all other ways. You make in one sentence, though not desirables. While we're drafting, that one will deal with the scenario, one will publicly intentionally alter the lyric and score, and second, to play and sing in distorted, disrespectful way. For 7.2, we do it separately in any way on the scenario, set for the scenarios for intentionally insult the anthem. So we don't want to link up 7.1 and 7.2, so that we like to a very narrow interpretation of the term in any way. Any follow-up, legal advisor? I understand Mr. Peng's position, and legally, there should not be any misinterpretation by the court. So as a ordinary public, it's better to make the ratio explicit to facilitate understanding. So maybe Mr. Peng can consider legal advisor's view. Gary Fan. So Mr. Hui's point is important because clause 7 will be the most key part of the bill. So this ideology laid the national anthem law to punish the Hong Kong public by criminal statute. For that promotion patriotism, if we don't act patriotic or love the ruling party, then we're likely to fall in the trap. So we need more time to scrutinize this. Can the administration tell us for 7-6, so that will actually be on a fine a level 5 for imprisonment for 3 years if they breach for 7-1 to 5 or commit all this behavior like insulting or disrespectful or acting unpatriotic. I hope the answer is that because the mainland do this is what we have to follow. So, well, a lot of countries also have national anthem laws. They also, while they're promoting patriotism, they not necessarily carry a penalty. It's more like an education. And now it's mandatory to come with a penalty if you distort or disrespectful. So what's the necessity of having these technical traps? And for national flag law, national emblem law have penalty, but after the passage of national anthem bill, the government enforcement would make a lot of the people fall in the trap. For April 14, the Chinese Liaison Office had the flag hoisted upside down and later to clarify and apologize for the error made with frontline staff. For our colleague Dr. Cheng, 2016, have hanged the CRC upside down and was charged and need to had court. Well, why such double standard? I'm worried that after the passage of this bill, that this may happen.
係你個問
So what is your question? Yes, I asked 2 questions. I think we have to clarify the concept regarding your first point. The local legislation on the national anthem doesn't mean that if you're not patriotic, you'll be punished severely and sent to prison. If you study Section 7 clearly, we're talking about openly and deliberately insulting the national anthem, and that will be an offense. So, Secretary, so if you're disrespectful, you're not patriotic, this is reflected in certain behavior. Chairman, we are scrutinizing the bill and I'm explaining the content of the bill. And it's not, compatible with what Mr. Fan said just now. Regarding the offenses, I think we've discussed that already. In other jurisdictions, they have no national anthem law. Some do, some do not. Some provide for fines and imprisonment, others do not. So the situation varies. So it's not that in all countries they don't have the national anthem law. Secondly, we are now adapting or enacting local legislation to implement the national anthem law. And thirdly, the offense for insulting the national anthem is actually comparable to those provided for under the national flag and emblem ordinance. So in summary, we believe that this is appropriate. What is the necessity for the penalties? That's my question. Well, we've already explained that under our laws, depending on the gravity of the offense, there would be a penalty, either be a fine or imprisonment. For Section 6, the penalty is a fine. Section 7 is about openly insulting the national anthem, and therefore we are applying the same, penalties and standards as in the case of the national anthem, flag, and emblem law. What will be the enforcement standard? Regarding the enforcement of the law and how we prosecute, that would be the responsibility of the law enforcement authorities, having gone through the prosecution and the court procedures, and we will follow the same standard. So I will not comment on individual cases. Why didn't the government, prosecute or sue the liaison office? I'll allow them to answer that question first. I'm just curious. Why won't you let him answer that question? Okay, can we, restart the clock? Chairman, I really want to challenge you. Say this section is equally important, but in fact, as a matter of fact, Section 7 is the most important in the bill because you're talking a proposed maximum penalty of 3 years imprisonment. And this bill will actually cover, it's a cover-all, catch-all, provision. So if you actually were to alter or disrespect or distort the national anthem publicly or deliberately or insulting the national anthem in any manner, even if you sneeze, so I really have to clarify this point. Words like intend to or deliberately. How do you, interpret that? You say intends to or with intent in English. Deliberate means intentionally. But in Chinese, attempting to is not as serious. You just attempt to, but intentionally means that he does have this intent to do it. In Chinese, deliberately is more serious than intentionally. So I don't really know how you would explain or define intent. I'll ask Mr. Pang to explain that. I think publicly and intent and so on, all these can be found in our local legislation. For 7(1)(a) and (b), the elements of the offense, we're talking about deliberately altering the lyrics and the score, and deliberately, playing and singing the national anthem in a distorted and disrespectful way. Well, Chairman, every time they answer a question, they will read the relevant sections, over and over again. I don't think they need to do that. They're wasting our time. Why don't you let them, answer the question? Well, the point is that if prosecution has to prove that the criminal act is intentionally, that is, the act of altering the national anthem and distorting the performance is deliberate. If we take out these words, prosecution has to prove that having committed the act, whether the accused has that intent. We've now added the intent to insult, meaning that other than proving that the defendant has, committed the act, the criminal act, the prosecution has proved that other than the act, the person has the intent to achieve the consequence, which is to insult the national anthem. So this is what subsection 1 means. All right. Your interpretation of publish includes, printing. Going back to my earlier point, if I were to put the lyrics of the March of the Volunteers as actually a pattern and I displaying on the product, would that be a commercial act? I'd like you to say this again. Can you confirm that this is not insulting the national anthem, is not disrespectful of the national anthem at all? For any of my products, if I were to, print the score of the national anthem here, it would not be an offense. So would the scenario described by Ms. Mo fall under Section 7? Chairman, if the person does not intend to insult the national anthem, he will not be in breach of Section 7. Well, in that case, all commercial products can have the score of the national anthem printed on it. Well, earlier I've asked a question which was about enforcement on the internet. While we are scrutinizing this section, I'd like to further follow up on that, where in your earlier reply, you said that we're talking about an act which is done publicly and deliberately, right? So I still have some question after reading the answer you provided. And I think we still need to follow up on that. Let's say in your reply to my question, you said that the police, if they want to remove such information, the police would follow the usual practice. But you've not promised that you will go to the court for and apply for a warrant before you do that. If you consider this to be illegal, you should be able to obtain a warrant. Can you undertake to do that? Because many suppliers think that should there be such, if the police were to call them up, from time to time like that, it would be a grave nuisance. They want the police to obtain a warrant each and every time before they do that. Can you undertake to do that? That is, when they gather evidence or want to remove something on the internet, they would do that. Chairman, since the law enforcement authorities want to prevent the committing of crime and to stop the continuing, for the offense to continue. I think internationally we've come across many cases where if you have to wait for a warrant to be obtained from the court, there would be, grave consequences or adverse consequences. But I promise that we can seriously consider this point. Chairman, I also like to report that the police officers police is willing to attend our deliberation, but this time that's not enough time. At the next meeting, they'll be happy to come and explain to members how they enforce the law in Hong Kong. Well, Chairman, I think you have to really reserve more time so that the police can, send representatives to come and join us in our discussion. Anyway, you said that in these circumstances, when there is disrespectful of the national anthem and such materials are found on the internet. So I think internationally and even in Hong Kong, let's say if you want to prevent the occurrence of certain criminal acts. Of course, I respect the national anthem, but I don't think it's not like, stopping a terrorist attack. So I think whether it's the DFJ or the police, I think you may need to consider that under these circumstances, you will try your best to obtain a warrant from the court first. I'd like to ask another question regarding the question of territoriality. You said that you will not just look at the IP address. If somebody used a VPN and pretend that he's using a overseas address, but he's doing the act in Hong Kong. But let's say if I'm overseas, I'm doing this, and that does not include the mainland. Let's say I do this, I commit this act, which is insulting or disrespectful national anthem. I put this the material onto an internet, and the act is being done in another foreign country. I won't assume whether the person is a Hong Kong resident or not. But anyway, would that be not against the law? Chairman, I'd like to clarify that we have to prevent any crime and also the continuous commitment of an offense. Regarding the content being published, if they appear in a platform in Hong Kong, that would certainly be a breach or offense. So even if we're an expatriate, you will still need to arrest that person and have him punished in Hong Kong. Regarding acts which warrant law enforcement, it's not a matter of whether the person is located in Hong Kong or not. But in Section 711, we say clearly that the national anthem law can only be enforced through the laws of Hong Kong. Dr. Cheng Chung Tai. I think the controversial part is about the intention to insult and also the legal procedure. That is, that the 1 year after the offense comes to the notice of the Commissioner of Police. And this is actually different from the time limit that's provided for under the common law system in Hong Kong. For the former, I think this is controversial because we have been debating whether there would be selective enforcement or prosecution, enforcement law or prosecution. So using my personal experience, for example, I've said many times that when I inverted the national flag, I was insulting those people who carry the national flag into the chamber and discarded them when they leave. When I study world history, I understand inverting something means calling for help. So why is it that regarding the interpretation of an act of insult, why do members have such a strong reaction? Coming to the national anthem, I think regarding the insult of the national anthem, I don't understand how the national anthem could be sung in reverse sequence. Whereas inverting the national flag is an offense. And I also like to clarify another point under Section 7. Actually, B plays and sings the national anthem in a distorted and disrespectful way. I understand, disrespectful, but I don't understand the word distorted. Disrespectful means you don't respect the national anthem. And the act it's very obvious. But for the word distorted, is there a legal definition for that, or do we have to leave it to the court to prove eventually whether the person has the intention to insult before you say that he is actually distorting the national anthem? Why is it that in English you use the word distort, in Chinese you say 歪曲?
係專員應該。
Mr. Pang? On distortion, in the bill there's no definite interpretation for that distortion. It's just based on general understanding and by way of legislative intent. The meaning of distorted dictionary is changing the appearance or having an incorrect explanation. That's way of distortion, and disrespect is to undermine to respect. That's how we interpret these two terms. Distorted or disrespectful will show the intent, and also need to prove that need to achieve the effect of intentionally insulting the national anthem. Dr. Chang? I still don't understand. So we distort the original nature of things. For 7.1b, they'll be playing things in a distorted or disrespectful way. So based on your response, there will be two interpretations. For one, you distorted the national anthem, or the act of distortion the way the national anthem is sung. Well, using the official version of the national anthem, for example, you distort, or maybe it's sung off tune, or is singing very poorly. However, in singing this actually in the way, then that will seem to be a model version of the national anthem. Are you clear about the question? Well, by distortion, let's deviate from the ordinary way it was played and sung. That's why though with the distorted way. So I can't sing it lying down. Okay, say it for second round. So this way I can't sing national anthem lying down. Okay, two questions. For picking up on class 6 and playing YouTube and chanting should not to be within the law. So let's say a customer, anyone, while watching YouTube and the contents of YouTube video related to the insulting of national anthem. So who will be in breach of the law? The person who played the YouTube video, or the people who watched the YouTube video, or the person who distort or alter the national anthem? Well, is the person watching the YouTube video in breach of the law, or would they be guilty by playing this YouTube video. For class 6, the liable on conviction to a fine at level 5 and imprisonment for 3 years. So the used and conjunction with and is used. So for judges, if convicted, the sentencing will be both fine and imprisonment, or the court have 4 different options. Let's say what's the minimum or the maximum penalty level. The 101H have explained that when with sentencing provision which and it shows that can offered together or separately. So are you clear about the usual practice? So usually they are sentenced together or either fining or imprisonment. So they'll be judged on the court case merited by the court. So the option will be imprisonment or a fine. So the community service order is an option. Well, didn't mention that's in the bill. That's the maximum. So that's why what's the minimum penalty? Well, the bill would not prescribe the minimum penalty. Well, only usually prescribe the maximum penalty. Does it include fine and imprisonment? With the community service order, would that be an option? There's also an option. How about my first question? Let's say someone, they turn on their phone and watch YouTube and see a national anthem that maybe may contain insulting content. So who's guilty? For the person playing the YouTube or the national anthem, if there's no other distort or disrespectful content, that should be fine. Anyone who watched that, the act or speech arising from it, will need to see that whether you see that the public intentionally insult the national anthem. I think his question is clear enough. Let's say a bystander well, let's say he's watching a altered national anthem. Well, does he fall in trouble if he's a bystander? Well, if you watch a bystander, it should not be a problem. However, if you're disseminating or publishing, let's say I play a video on YouTube in which the clip has contained altered contents. So playing the YouTube videos constitute publishing. So playing YouTube will consider publishing. However, the intent must be insulting. Otherwise, should not be ruled fall under class 7. So on liability for the insulting behavior, have to be intentional and public. So by publicly, so it's different from the public occasion. For it's just, well, online doesn't count as public. However, class 7. So any act of seen as insulting the national anthem will be covered. Well, the internet is included. I think for the next meeting, any internet expert from the police must attend so that we so have someone to answer our questions. So on liability, let's say someone shot a video that would publicly intentionally insult the national anthem intentionally. Well, the person committing this act would be a private event. I played this video or saying something, however, he didn't play it in the public places. Well, maybe someone attended a private event and shoot down what happened. And then they disseminate it in his WhatsApp group or online. So who would have the liability? The person who committed this act in the first place, or the person who shot the video and put online and made it public? Or both are responsible? Well, if what Dr. Wang said is the full facts of the case, since it is committed the act in a public event, there's no intention to insult the national anthem, though there's no issue on public or not. On the other hand, they distribute some information. If he simply intent on insult the national anthem, he'll be in breach of 7.3. It also needs to contain the intentional on the insulting element. However, for the one in private event, if the person insulted, if the person who did publish it has done it intentionally. Well, let's say he planned to humiliate or play a trick on the person. It's not for the point of insulting national anthem. He just want to pull a prank on a particular colleague and so forth, or it's like his arch rival. So that's why he published something was meant for a private event. Was they in breach of the clause 7? In this one, we see that he had the same intention. While for clause 5, it actually exempt a lot of publish. If the implemented element insulting the national anthem is not in breach of section 7. Let's say if some other people online saw the video and share and like the video, will they be prosecuted? First, they would have to have the intention to insult before that would be regulated under clause 7. So let's say with a hypothetical question, we have 100,000 people. Or for a scenario question, you know the answer. Well, yesterday there are 3 international cup races, and the race course 2 of which were won by Hong Kong horses and need to play the national anthem. And the MC have appealed the attendees to rise up. Well, of course, not all race goers will stand, and some the lost money will even cuss. I remember that what happened in the race course probably shouldn't. So I want the secretary to make it clear. Let's say the bill is passed. If the MC ask the attendees to rise and respect the national anthem, and the race goers have the emotions, they have received foul language. Because they don't necessarily buy the Hong Kong horses, maybe to get better than other foreign horses. Let's say if we swear, that wouldn't see as in breach of the law. I think his question's been answered earlier. for, well, it could be a lot of different scenarios. Then in any public places for Arch 7, we need to look at whether the act we see the public intentionally with the intent to insult the national anthem. If they check all three boxes, that with the relevant actor will see a breach. So usually in race courses, and let's say I'm playing horse after a winning, a lot of the race goers have seen myself that have stood up. Some don't have maybe didn't take notice or maybe due to various reasons, but they don't intend to insult the national anthem. Well, and to make sure it's caught under Clause 7, we have to prove they have probably intentionally invoked national anthem. Let's say a law enforcement agency will have to rule whether to have intentionally. Would you install cameras in the race course to ensure the attendees? But let's say some race goer lost a lot of money, punters lost a lot of money, and being volatile, would you consider ensure that the national anthem is not insulted? They will install cameras in the race course. I believe that when we draft Clause 7, we don't want to see that there are hope that there were any act of insulting the national anthem. We will clear the consequences. So how the law enforcement would do the work will also include that whether there were any complaints or what the occasions have happened, and we should deal with that on the risk basis. So we can say with a broad brush that I will do this for this venue or different. I mean, I disagree a lot of different types of venues.
Point taken. So what the secretary is saying that is that it would depend on whether there have been similar scenarios taking place previously. Say in a football pitch, for example, I think the risk there would be even higher than that of a race course. Is that right? I think Mr. Young has said that based on past experience, if people were to boo the national anthem in the Coliseum or a football field, I think even the audience will ask the law enforcement why they do this and not that. So for law enforcement, what is most important is how they can effectively enforce the relevant legislation. Dr. Fernando Zhang, Mr. Chairman, according to Section 7, if anybody were openly and deliberately insult the national anthem, it would be an offense, and there is a penalty for that. Under Section 4, the etiquette for when observing the performance of the national anthem is that people attending such functions, or according to Section 5, said that of course, it's bad if you don't respect the national anthem, but there is no penalty if you fail to do that. But under Section 7, bracket 2, you're saying that a person who actually, publicly and intentionally insult the national anthem, it would be an offense. Between insulting and not respecting the national anthem, what is the difference? I'll give you a real example. In the U.S., we have seen a situation where some, U.S. football players actually, knelt on one of the knees when the national anthem was being played. Normally, people would stand, in silence, but not in this case. So does it mean that these athletes were deliberately insulting their own national anthem? So for this bill, in one section you say if you don't respect the national anthem, it's fine. You don't follow the direction, but you will not be punished for doing so. But if you insult the national anthem, you will be put to prison. You will be indicted. So where's the difference? I'll ask Mr. Pang to explain the difference between respect and insult. Let's first of all look at the definition of insult. Under section 7, bracket 8, there is a definition for insult. In respect of the national anthem, insult means in relation to the national anthem means to undermine the dignity of the national anthem. And this we make reference of the CFA's ruling in respect of the national flag and emblem ordinance. In that particular case law, the offense concerned was in respect of insulting the national flag as a symbol of the country, and an act that was, committed publicly. We've actually made reference of that requirement and come up with this definition. And this is what we mean by the element of insult. Whereas for respect, in the context of the national anthem, we would take the dictionary meaning. We're talking about respect for a particular event, or respect for the national anthem. Chairman, if I may further elaborate that, whether we're talking about insult or disrespect and the difference between the two, I think according to Section 7, whether there would be a defense and a criminal liability would depend whether or not there's an act which insults the national anthem. I don't think he has answered my question. I gave a very specific example, which, anybody in the world can see. That is, if somebody kneel on one of his knees when the national anthem is being played, would that count as disrespectful or insulting deliberately the national anthem? Secretary, in the bill, we've already listed all the elements. In each and every scenario, whether an act would constitute an insult of the national anthem, in the end, the court will make a judgment. Since it is so clear, why can't you answer this very simple question in respect of a very clear-cut scenario? So you can't even tell me whether such an act represents an insult or disrespectful of the national anthem. Ray Chan. Chairman, a provision in the law, when it is being drafted, I think you should aim for maximum clarity. The act that you want to prohibit, you need to define that clearly so that people will not, commit the offense just because the law is not drafted clearly. And I don't think one should be left to speculate on the meaning of the law. My question in relation to Section 7 is whether the administration has considered and tried to draft this section more clearly, rather than resorting to the approach in Section 7, bracket 2, that is insulting the national anthem in any way. Compared with the national flag and national emblem ordinance, you specifically refer to the burning, the smearing, and so on, to the national flag and so on. And in respect of Dr. Eng Chung Kai's, case inverting the national flag, well, at least you've make an effort to consider what are the acts that will be covered, rather than saying in any manner. So, well, even the national anthem can also be played in a reverse sequence, when you, for read out the text of the national anthem. It could also be, done in a reverse manner. But coming back to my point, why is it that you say in any manner, rather than exhausting all the manners that you wish to prohibit? Well, if you look at 7.1 bracket A and B, I think we have already attempted to list out the different acts which would constitute an insult of the national anthem. And in answer to Tanya Chan's question, that is paper CB 21127 1819 bracket 27. In that paper, we've explained that under the common law system and following a case law ruled by the CFA, it is not possible for us to absolutely ascertain whether acts of in breach of the law. I'm not saying that you should exhaust those whether those acts which are considered to be not to be unlawful. Of course, you cannot exhaust all possible scenarios. But the point here is that you've not exhausted anything, you've not listed anything at all. The court's opinion is that it will be best to look at the nature of the event or activity, and I think there are many similar examples in our laws, including the powers and privileges ordinance for this council. It also includes any form of expression. So insult means hurting the dignity of the national anthem. I asked earlier whether there are other case laws in other countries to explain the standard by which you judge what is meant by insulting the national anthem. I don't think the government has provided any such case laws for reference. Chairman, I don't think we are asked to provide for the relevant case laws. Mr. Pang said on many occasions that respect and dignity are not clearly defined under our enactments. But in fact, in the laws of Hong Kong, we very often see the words respect and I just want to ask whether in any common law jurisdiction there are any case law regarding the definition of hurting the dignity of something. Dr. Helena Wong, your second round, 3 minutes. Chairman. I'd like to ask a question in respect of Section 7(6). A person who commits offense under this section is liable on conviction to a fine or at level 5 and imprisonment for 3 years. So we're talking about a fine of $50,000 and 3 years imprisonment. Earlier, I asked a similar question, that is, compared with other jurisdictions, should there be a breach of the national anthem laws, what would be the period of imprisonment? And the government has provided a reply, but I don't think you've exhausted all the possible jurisdictions. But according to the annex provided by the government, we're told that compared with the proposal in the National Anthem bill, the maximum penalty could be imprisonment for 3 years. In the brief provided by the government, there is one such country, which is Germany, which imposed a similarly serious, penalty. France, Australia, Portugal, Singapore, Japan, Canada. All these countries do not provide for such a severe penalty. The maximum would be imprisonment for 6 months to a year. In Singapore, they only provide for a fine and there is no provision for imprisonment. So this is rather strange. Singapore is already very strict, but still they won't imprison people for insulting the national anthem. Why is it that we are providing for a maximum penalty of 3 years imprisonment? We just want people to be patriotic. We don't want to put them to prison. So the only thing I've heard from the administration is that in the case of a breach of the national flag and anthem law, maximum imprisonment, it would be maximum in imprisonment for 3 years, and that's why we need to align the bill with that. My question is, you should perhaps consider making an amendment because it doesn't need to be 3 years. I hope the government will move that amendment. At the same time, it would be best for the government to amend the national flag ordinance to reduce the penalty to 6 months to a year, because no other jurisdictions would provide for such a penalty of 3 years imprisonment, although you say that the court may not actually go for the maximum penalty. I think this has been deliberated before. The crux of your question is whether or not the government has the intention to make that amendment. Chairman, we believe that the provision under 7 bracket 6 is appropriate. If we consider the arrangements in other jurisdictions, we can see that there are similar arrangements. No. In respect of this point, I think we need to clarify, what do you mean by compro arrangement other than Germany? Dr. Wong, why don't you let him finish first? And secondly, for the national flag and national anthem law, they are also the symbol of the country. And again, therefore, we need to have provide for a comparable, penalty. And what we're proposing here is the maximum. The court will come up with a ruling based on the circumstances of the case. I think we need to first of all clarify the facts. You say in other jurisdictions the provision is similar, 3 years. That is. Could you give us a paper telling us which other jurisdictions, other countries provide for a 3-year imprisonment? Dr. Wong, I think our time is up and we need to adjourn. Chairman, what I was saying is that there are jurisdictions which provide for similar provision. There is only one country, Germany. Why don't you ask that question again? I think we have already finished with our meeting today. For those members who press the button, they may ask questions at our next meeting. Our next meeting will be held on the 2nd of May at 2:30 to 6:30. And I don't have anything under AOB, so I now declare that we are adjourned. Thank you.